I was aiming to get 6 clients that month, and I launched it. I got 15.
Wait, what? So you pretty much doubled your goal. That's insane.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Turn Your Followers into Clients podcast. I'm Vanessa Lau, and my mission is to help new coaches, content creators, and corporate escapees get visible and get paid. I went from quitting my corporate job with no backup plan to suddenly building a multiple 7-figure business in less than 2 years thanks to the power of social media. My life changed in an entire year, and I believe yours can too. So boss, let's help you get visible and get paid, and dive into today's episode. Hi, Rosie. Super excited to have you on the Turn Your Followers into Clients podcast. It's been a while since we last chatted. Fun fact, everyone, Rosie is actually someone who I interviewed 2 years ago when I still had my first Facebook group called the Fearless Boss Network. And when I was still doing work for free. And so I included featuring different experts or different people that I really respected to do interviews with. And 2 years later, we're doing an interview on my podcast now, and you also have a 6-figure business. So hello. So excited to have you here.
Oh, so excited to be here. This does feel like a full circle moment. I feel like we've gone through so many business milestones and life milestones together somehow in parallel. So yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing the story with your audience as well. It's been a ride.
It really has been. So speaking of the ride, can you tell us more about your journey and basically where you're at today, and just introduce yourself essentially?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm gonna take the listeners on a bit of a journey through my story, just to give a bit of context, because this ain't my first rodeo. So today, what you see, I am the CEO and founder of Badass Careers. I get to help a really ambitious professional millennial women in their 20s and 30s to do work that feels really energizing, really fulfilling, full of purpose, and help them to make those strategic career moves. So that's what you see today, but didn't really start here. So basically, I'm from New Zealand, and I carved out an international career in human resource management, very much focused on learning and development, and specifically leadership development and training for millennials. So that was my professional jam. And I was working, I was the original Emily in Paris, okay? Like, I was over in Paris working for LVMH, so the Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy group. I was at L'Oreal, another big Fortune 500. I worked at cool tech startups. I was living the corporate dream. On the side of that, so in September 2017, I actually started a YouTube channel about my life in France for expats, or maybe soon to be expats, living in France. And it was all about, tips, tricks, advice, all that good stuff, French language, French culture. And it kind of blew up. So I got it to 100,000 subscribers in the first 2 years. So this was my first taster of, I can build a community and you can monetize that community. It was the first time the seed was kind of planted in my mind, like, about this whole online entrepreneurship world. I mean, I wasn't making any money off it. I had 100,000 subscribers and wasn't making anything because I had no business model, but I didn't know about that stuff at the time. So I was a content creator. And so in August 2018, another big sort of life event hit me where I married my Frenchie. So I have a French husband now. And while that's wonderful and good and all these kinds of things, I remember starting to feel quite panicked, because I was living in France so far from home, and I hated the idea of having to ask my boss, once a year, may I please go home to New Zealand and see my family? It started to feel very claustrophobic, and I knew that I wanted more freedom in my life. One of my values, my top values, became freedom, and it wasn't quite working for me anymore. So I started thinking, okay, I've got to do something with this. I have to start something, become an entrepreneur somehow, but how and what and where and all that kind of stuff. So I was following a lot of gurus in the space, and this is when I stumbled across you, Vanessa. And alongside, the other classics, Sunny Lenarduzzi, Amy Porterfield, like all the big ones. And I was sort of like daydreaming. And I got quite obsessed, to be honest. I say daydreaming. I mean, I was like on my walk to work, on my walk home, on my lunch break, like I was consuming all of this information, all of the free information out there. But as you know, that's not enough to actually take action, right? So I started daydreaming about what my possibilities were. I ended up using the Ikigai framework. So if your followers don't know what that is, it's a framework which basically explores your strengths, your passions, your values, and what you could be paid for. And the center of all of that would be your Ikigai. So I used that framework to come up with 3 kind of business ideas and kind of sat on them for a while.
What were the 3 business ideas?
Yeah, so the 3 were, I had continue Not Even French, so go all in with my French language and culture YouTube channel, become a content creator on the French lifestyle. How to grow on YouTube coach, so a YouTube coach, or what eventually became Badass Careers. So I'm really excited to talk through my decision making
I
around
love that.
that.
And fun fact,
Yeah.
everyone, is when Rosie was doing Not Even French, that was when I think you had more subscribers than I did. And for me, I was like, Rosie, like, do you want to interview on my Fearless Boss Network group to teach people how to grow on YouTube? And it's just so exciting to see how much you've grown financially, because like you mentioned, like, you could have 100,000 plus subscribers, but you're making more money now than you ever did with 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. And I can't wait to dive deeper on your journey on this episode.
Yeah, for sure. I'll definitely share all of the financials. But yeah, basically just to wrap up, long story short, February 2019, I found out that we were moving back to New Zealand. My husband landed a job here. April 2019, I said, I'm doing this. I invested in Bossgram Academy. I was like early bird of 1.0. Like I was
I
like,
know.
definitely.
I'm glad you have 3.0 now, though.
Absolutely. And then, yeah, that year I moved to New Zealand. I didn't implement BGA straight away because I moved to New Zealand. But from June, I started with my free beta clients and it was all on. September 2019, launched my Instagram page for Badass Careers. And 18 months later, here I am. I've worked with over 100 coaching clients from over 20 different countries. I have over 170 students in my self-study online course. Like, I've completely transformed my life.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear this. And honestly, like, I remember we basically, like, I'm trying to think back on how we met. I think you sent me a voice note because I think you watched one of my YouTube videos and I subtly mentioned, like, I don't think I named the name yet. I think I was like, I worked at a really big beauty conglomerate, yada, yada, yada. And then you voice noted me and you're like, hi, like, I watched your videos. Do you by chance work at L'Oreal, or did you work at L'Oreal? And I was like, yes. And then we went back and forth voice noting. And I remember you would get back to me with the voice notes while you were walking to work. You'd be like, I'm literally walking to work right now. And like we would send voice notes back and forth. And that was in 2018, 2019, like late 2018 or something like that. I think it was before I even launched my business. It was just more so like you, when I was just creating content and not really making money, I think. And it's so insane now. We're at like 2021 and both of our businesses, both of our journeys have just changed and pivoted. And it's been so beautiful and so awesome. And so I guess like, well, that kind of answers the question of how you found BGA. You found it through me, I'm assuming, and you joined the first round. And you know, how has joining the program impacted your business?
Yeah, and I just want to, I mean, Vanessa, honestly, you have no idea how it felt too. I felt so alone and so weird for like I had this amazing job on paper, like an incredible corporate career. Like everyone was so jealous of my life in Paris, working at L'Oreal. Like it was amazing. I felt like such a weirdo wanting something different. So to find you online and see someone who also worked for this incredible company with all of the amazing opportunities it offers and still wants something different, it was just, oh my gosh, I just knew you were the mentor for me when I found you. So I just wanted to say that. But you know, how has it impacted my business? My business is built on BGA. Like my business is a case study of Bossgram Academy. And I'm not just saying that. It's like the first 6 to 9 months of my business, I was focused on implementing, tweaking, and learning from BGA. That was it. BGA was the first course I ever invested in. And in my life, you know, in terms of this
and
entrepreneurship.
Thank you for trusting me. Honestly, I remember when you joined, I had imposter syndrome. Not gonna lie. I was like, oh my gosh, like she is like an HR, like high up there HR person at L'Oreal. She obviously knows her stuff. She has so many subscribers on YouTube. Like, she joined my program. Not gonna lie, like there are certain people when they join my program, I'm like, oh my God, I hope I deliver. And you were one of those people. So I'm so happy to hear that a lot of the foundations was learned from BGA and that you were able to build on that through your experience as well, too.
Yeah, absolutely. And now as I shift into a new sort of world, I realized like the strategies and the techniques and everything that we learned in BGA, it still holds true. I need to focus more on team dynamics and mindset and other things like this now, because I'm moving towards the next version of me and the next version of Badass. But that first year, my first 6 figures and everything, it was literally a BGA case study. And now I'm just sort of trying new things and new tactics, but the BGA core still remains.
Yes, a lot of it really for the listeners who are tuning in is what maybe differentiates BGA a little bit from maybe some other programs is the fact that we slow down to speed up. We value a lot about testing, data-driven decisions, market research. And as you'll hear from this episode with Rosie, you're going to see all the different things that she tried to get to where she is right now. And a lot of it is thanks to the mindset that she built within BGA. It doesn't matter what phase she's at in business right now. Obviously, you've grown BGA by a lot. You're hiring your first team members, you're putting your program on Evergreen, you're doing all these amazing things to scale to 7 figures. But a lot of the mindset components of how to run a business and how to make decisions, I'm really grateful that you were able to pick up from BGA. So that being said, I know that, we connected since L'Oreal and you did Not Even French, which was your French YouTube channel. It wasn't a French YouTube channel, but it was a YouTube channel teaching people the Parisian lifestyle, basically. And I also heard that you did some HR freelancing and now you're a career coach. Like you've done a lot of different things from what I've understood from your profile, knowing you and just this little piece of what you've introduced yourself with. And I would love to know, like, the decision-making behind when you're ready to switch niche, when you're ready to pivot, because you've done a lot of things that you've tested out. And another thing I wanted to add on was it hard to let go of a YouTube channel that had 100,000 plus subscribers? Because most people, if I were in your position, I would have sunk cost bias. And I'd be like, I've already invested so much time and energy in this YouTube channel. It took you a few years to grow it to 100,000 subs. Like it must not have been an easy decision for you to pivot to Badass Careers and all the pivots in between. So can you just tell us more about that? Switching niches, just the journey that you went through that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this could be useful for people to hear about the decision points, right? So to respond to what you just said, absolutely. It was so hard deciding to quote unquote give up or not even French is still in my life, but it's my passion project, it's my hobby. So to not go all in on this, what could be a business at 100,000 subscribers. I had an audience, I had a community sort of there waiting almost. And some people might call me crazy for doing that, but what I would say it comes back to is you have to really, really know yourself and understand the kind of life you want to live, the kind of content you want to, do I want to talk about French people for 80 hours a week for the first year and then onwards for 5 more years, 10 more years? And the answer was no. Like I love French people, I love the French culture obviously, but it's like, the content for me, I knew that the content would run dry, it would become repetitive. I was moving to New Zealand, like it just didn't feel right anymore. And when I was thinking about how I could monetize that community and offer them services and things that they'd enjoy, like I didn't want to coach people on how to move to France and deal with administration and paperwork. I didn't want to, spend even more time into a special membership community where they'd have more calls with me and more things with me. And then I was like, well, maybe I could write a book. And it's like, yeah, but like selling a book at $12 a pop, like how many copies are you going to have to sell to be able to hit your revenue goals? So I had to really zoom out. And it goes back to the sort of the process you teach in BGA as well. It's sort of like, what are you good at? Great, that's not enough. What are you also passionate about? Great, that's still not enough. What does the market need? What can you get paid for? How can you help people transform their lives, take them from point A to a point B? Like that's still not enough. Like what's your desired lifestyle? Like are you going for a 7-figure business? Are you happy? Are you living in a small town and you're all good at $60K a year? Like you have to really know yourself to be able to make these kinds of decisions. And so I knew that I'm incredibly ambitious. I do want a 7-figure business. And I don't want to speak about, French people nonstop for the next, 5, 10, 15 years kind of thing. So I was like, what else? So this is when I started to think, okay, maybe YouTube coaching. I loved growing on YouTube. I loved figuring out all the tactics and strategies and testing things out and the business behind it. I loved growing YouTube and monetizing YouTube. But then when I thought about the kind of content I like to create, and I knew that I wanted to be a course creator because I was working in learning and development for years. I loved creating online courses internally for corporate. So I knew that I wanted to be a course creator out in the wild. And I was like, gosh, with YouTube, the thing is like every change of the algorithm, every new feature, every new, I was going to have to be updating it all the time. And there's this whole like aspect that's outside of your control. Like, what if the platform, goes away in 2 years? Then what? Then what for my
Totally.
business? So I mean, so that was a big decision. And then, so basically it all came together, what I'm good at, what I love, but also what's a smart business model, a sustainable business model that I'm happy to talk about for years and years and years. And guess what? I had the proof in the pudding. I've been loving my career in HR for the past 10 years. So why not turn that into something that I can, work for
It's
myself? And
crazy.
that's where
Like it was
career
right in
coaching came.
front of you too.
Yeah,
Like,
it was right
you
in front
know,
of me. I was looking everywhere else, right?
I
Yeah.
love that. And actually, I have a question. So, um, totally, I love the fact that with Not Even French, I think at some point, I remember creeping you a while back, you were selling merch, I think too. Like, didn't you have
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
t-shirts or some sort of merch? Like you did the damn thing with Not Even French.
Mm.
And I really want the listeners or the watchers, whoever's, YouTube or podcast listeners or whatever else, they realize that like Rosie could have monetized. And
Ooh,
she
yeah.
had the audience to monetize. Like a lot of people would kind of quote unquote say that as easy money. But it wasn't about the money for you. It was the audience was there. You could have easily monetized. You saw how it could work, but you just couldn't see the long term of you truly being happy with that niche. And even with Badass Careers, like even if you decide to do something, you're always entitled to change your mind, right? Like a lot of times people think that, oh, I've spent so much time to build this business and I can't let it go. I don't want to disappoint people, all these different things. But I think in your journey so far, you're proof that you could always pivot, you could always change. It's not comfortable to let go of things that could be quote unquote easy money. But what you get in exchange of that is so much more. Like you've been able to build a 6-figure business, and it's not even about the money. The fact that you've been able to impact hundreds of people and help them get promotions. I've creeped you on Instagram, and the wins that you get for your clients in the career side of things, mind blowing. Like I wish I met someone like you when I was looking for jobs. Like it's so incredible.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And to be honest, I had loads of limiting beliefs. I was like, okay, so to make my first 6 figures with Badass Careers, I'm going to need at least 20,000 followers on Instagram, 30,000 YouTube subscribers. I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, I can't believe that I'm almost a year into my YouTube channel and I've only got 8,000 freaking subscribers. But am I on track to have a multiple 6-figure business? Yes, it's incredible. It's about quality, not quantity. And that's one of my biggest takeaways from this journey. But you're completely right. Like with Not Even French, I had an audience. I was trying things out. I had a Patreon, I did merch, I did affiliate marketing, I did all sorts of stuff to try and monetize it and play with it from an entrepreneurial perspective. I'm glad I did it because I realized that I don't want to have this like bitsy sort of hustle like that. It just wasn't my design. I wanted to have a transformational program, which I now have with my Career Glow Up, and it's getting these results that you see. And I really want to impact people's lives, and I'd rather work with fewer people, but in a more intense way.
And so you have 8,000 subscribers for Badass Careers on YouTube. But you had 100,000 with Not Even French. There's a lot to say. There's a lot to unpack here. Like the fact that just because you can get 100,000 subscribers on one channel, on another one, you start back from zero, and it takes time to build. It's not a magic pill formula, which is also why I also kind of strayed away from the YouTube, being a YouTube teacher or whatever else, because the algorithm is so unpredictable. You need to understand the foundations, and literally it's just a consistency and patience game with YouTube. And that's why even for me, if I were to teach YouTube, I would need to put a business component to it. So something that people can actually control instead of just a sole YouTube program. So I love that. But I also want to talk and kind of highlight the fact that you have been able to build a 6-figure business with 8,000 subscribers on YouTube. Now, obviously to some people that might be their goal. But the fact that you used to have 100,000, and a lot of people who have 6-figure businesses, they have a huge audience and all of that. You don't have a big audience, like not as big as you did when you were doing the French stuff, right? And so can we unpack that a little bit? Like, because I know that a lot of our listeners, they feel like, oh, well, they don't like some people obviously love to take my advice, but they always have this like skepticism in the back of their mind. Be like, well, it's because you have a big audience, so you can make all this stuff. I'm like, okay, well, fair.
Mm-hmm.
But what about for you? How did you make six figures with less than 10,000 followers, less than 10,000 subscribers on YouTube?
Yeah, it's incredible because I was kind of one of those people, to be honest. I mean, and it comes back to limiting beliefs. Your brain needs evidence, right? It needs evidence to prove to yourself that it is possible for you. So I hope that this podcast episode provides some evidence for some people out there, because I would have never imagined being able to like make the revenue I'm making with the size of audience I have. My Not Even French YouTube channel is actually up to 150,000 subscribers now. And it's a completely different world. It's entertainment. It's a very high search volume niche. It's got lots of stuff going for it that the careers niche, if you're wanting to wind down on a Friday night, you're not necessarily searching how to write a resume, right? So it's a completely different ball game, but the people who are following are really interested in the topic, and that's where it changes the game. I would say, honestly, the journey to six figures, it's half strategy and half mindset and self-belief. I'm going to be honest, in my first 6 months of doing the damn thing, I almost burnt out because I was working with so many clients at such a low price point. It was absolutely impossible to sustain. Vanessa, you're going to kill me. This is not what you advised to do in BGA, but basically I'd come out of my free beta coaching, and the next stage for me was sort of my next level of pricing. I was having one-off sessions with people, which is not transformational. I was having I was selling packages of 3 calls, writing people's CVs for them, writing people's cover letters and LinkedIn for them, plus 3 calls for like $300.
It's also like very transactional too. It's like
yes.
basically doing something for someone. Whereas I find that what you've done to reach the 6 figures is you basically transition from transactional to transformational, giving people
yes.
the tools so they can do it themselves instead of you doing it for them.
Yeah. And so the first 6 months I made like 20K. And then when I shifted out of that, packaged up the Career Glow Up, created that transformational program like you teach to do in BGA, and sold it at a higher ticket price, then in the next 6 months, I made an excess of the 80K that took me over 100K for my first, 6-figure year. So it's like 20K in 6 months versus, more than 80K in the next 6 months, just through shifting that self-belief of actually like, I'm not here to write CVs. I'm here to change people's lives. And that is a higher price point because it's a higher value add to someone's life, right?
And what do you think are the shifts? Because I think that a lot of people, they don't understand that once you start charging the prices that, you want to charge, and that the market is willing to buy for the value that you're giving, because obviously it's a positioning thing too. You want to make sure if you're increasing your price, the way that you communicate the value is, makes sense and people will buy in. I'd love to know, like, what was some observations that you've noticed with the newer cohort of clients and students who paid more, and just you transitioning to your new program, Career Glow Up? Like, I'm sure that there was some sort of energetic shift either within yourself or maybe even an observation on the type of client that you were working with at that point. Can you shed some light on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely have really high quality clients now. Like it's like every client coming in feels like an ideal. Whereas before I was sort of like, oh, we can make this work, like for some of the clients,
I can make this work. I can fit
help.
you in my agenda somewhere.
Like I can help, right? Like
Yeah.
I can help, but it's like not that like lighting you on fire, like, oh my gosh, this relationship, this is so exciting. I love serving you. I love, like all of that kind of stuff. So it's like that. Yeah, definitely a lot of ideal clients coming in now. I had to let go of like, I don't have many followers and I want to be, I guess, a more on the expensive side, a higher level of investment in my niche. There are so many career coaches out there charging peanuts, and you've got to drop that comparison because good for them and good for the people working for them at lower price points and stuff. But I didn't want that. And as we're saying, I was like, playing in the transformational space. So I think what helps you to charge higher prices is just knowing that your point A to point B feels worth it. Like feels like how much some of my clients, yes, it can be tangible. Some of them get, $40,000 pay rises, 100% pay increases, like huge salary jumps and stuff with their next roles. But that's not what they're talking about in their testimonials. They're like, I have clarity, I have fulfillment, I know my purpose, I am on track in life, I am not doubting myself anymore. Like, it is hard to quantify that, but when you know that's the kind of impact you're making, that is worth an investment. And when people energetically invest at that higher level, they're in. Before, with the career glow up, because it's a hybrid of coaching and course, earlier clients weren't completing the course, because after a few months they kind of move on, or they, like whatever, that sort of, half of the group were kind of getting halfway through, and then like circling back 6 months later, like, hey, can I still have my calls? Like, it was just a little bit different, right? Whereas when they're really invested at that higher level, and some of them have made a lot of sacrifices to be there, they're selling clothes on eBay, they're doing the damn thing to make sure that it can happen and they can invest in themselves, like they're in. And so the results that they're getting are so much more powerful as well.
Yeah, I love that. It's just a bigger game too. And when they actually commit, then they're showing up a different way. And the fact that you don't feel resentment as the coach or as the instructor or as whatever, because you're paying, or they're paying what you believe the program is worth and what you believe you're worth. So there is no resentment. I find that when you charge prices that you don't want to charge, and it's because of fear, oftentimes you'll have conversations with your friends or with other coaches or whatever, like, oh, my clients are so annoying, or, oh, I'm just so annoyed that I have to do this, or why are they like this, or blah, blah, blah. And it's a bad energy. Like, you don't want to talk about your clients that way. But most times what I find, it's because of resentment. It's because I'm not getting paid what I'm worth. I don't feel valued. And I don't feel like I just feel invalidated, because oftentimes at lower price points, you're giving it your all regardless, right? And the fact that either that client doesn't appreciate it, or ask for a discount, or ask for a refund, or whatever else it is that kind of more so happens on the lower ticket side of offers, then you just burn out. Burnout comes from feeling invalidated a lot of times, and not feeling heard, or not feeling like you're being given what you're worth. And so I love that. Another thing that I also want to pinpoint is the fact that in Rosie's case, it took her a while to get to the price points that she's at now, right? Like, do you think if you started, you could have just easily slapped 5,000 or whatever else your program is worth now? Like, do you feel like that trajectory though of working for free and then charging a little bit more kind of helped with your confidence? Or, let's talk more about that price increase journey for you.
Absolutely. So I needed it, definitely. So I started out beta coaching, like beta clients for free, and then low price points. And then I packaged up the career glow up. It had, 6 private sessions, a whole online portal. It was like an amazing offer. And for me, I took this huge, and this is about, 8 months into my business. For me, it felt like a huge thing. I priced it at $1,200 US. And that felt crazy to me. And I was like, who is going to pay that? Sort of like, in the career coaching space. I just didn't have a lot of other career coaches out there that were doing the thing at a high ticket price point. And so I was sort of like, I was just like really full of self-doubt and stuff. I was aiming to get 6 clients that month, and I launched it. I got 15.
Wait, what? So you pretty much doubled your goal. That's insane. Were you ready? Like, were you like, oh my gosh, like,
I had to stagger them out. When I realized though, your sales calls should not have a 90% close rate. Like, if your sales calls are closing at 90%, you need to up your prices. Like,
were you finding that you were getting a 90% close rate? Like, was that kind of what told you, like, okay, my price is really low for the amount of value that I'm giving?
Yeah, no, I spoke to 18 people and 15 said yes at my new, like, quote unquote high ticket price point. Like, it was insane. Like, I was just so full of self-doubt. So I would say it was important to me though to go through that phase. I could have sped it up if I had actually taken the time, and I encourage everyone to do this, listen to what people are saying to you. They're not giving you testimonials. You don't have that social proof. They're not like you're not a charity case. So no, they're not feeling like, this is some of like the things going through my mind was like, oh, they just feel obligated to give me feedback, or like they feel, they would have got that anyway on their own without me. Like that lack of confidence is just, it's going to kill you, and it's going to kill your business. You have to, when people take the time to say lovely things about you and say, you've changed my life. I wouldn't have got this 20K pay raise if it weren't for you. I wouldn't have found my purpose if it weren't for you. You have to listen to that. That is true. You are adding value to people's lives, and you need to take that on. You really need to learn to listen to that. There's also, I think, with pricing, a lot of shit that you project onto other people. So for me, growing up relatively poor, like I had definitely had like poor kid syndrome, where I was thinking, who could pay that? Who could afford that? Like, you don't know people's financials. You don't know their business. Like I've had clients sign on and say yes, and I've learned through working through them. They're from incredibly wealthy families. Like you don't know. You never know like where people are coming from, and other people who aren't from wealthy families, but they have hustled in the background. They've been saving up for the past 4 months to work for you. They've taken on side jobs, they've sold their old clothes, they've sold their own old tech. Like they've been saving for months to work for you. And them being able to do that and being able to give you that money to work with you is a huge highlight of their year. Like, don't take that from them. Like they've been working for that. So I think it's like shifting your mindset to being like this is so cool. Like that I'm meeting someone, like we're crossing paths in life at this exact moment. And I've got something that can really help them and really transform. And it's exactly what they need right now. And they're ready. They want to invest, and they're here too. And it's like a beautiful thing. It's not like a sleazy thing at all, And so the more that I've worked with my mindset on that, and actually been like, I'm open to receiving people wanting to work with me, it's really helped. I'm still working on it. I've put the price of the Career Glow up very incrementally about 3 times since, and it's now priced at $2,000 for the program. However, I've restructured it, and it's a group program now, so it is a bit different.
Amazing.
But yeah, so it's much more scalable. But yeah, it's been a journey. It's been a real journey, and I've had people tell me in the space, you could be charging $5,000 for this program. You're changing people's lives. They're landing jobs at Facebook. They're getting 100% pay rises. Like, but I'm not there yet. And there's also a point, I think, with the pricing. The goal isn't always just to go up, 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 up. There's also, what feels good for your ideal client avatar. Where are they at, as well.
100%.
A lot of my clients haven't actually invested in themselves before. I'm the first coach they've ever had. So you've got to take that into account as well. So I feel really good with where I'm at now. That, my God, it's been an 18-month journey.
Oh my gosh, we are so similar in our philosophy with pricing. Like, I think even you've told me this, or so many of my other students told me this, like, why is BG price this low? You need to have it higher. Oh my gosh, you could, like, a lot of people would pay like 5x what BGA is, but it's the exact same thing for as you. Like, it's not a money mindset thing for me, at least right now. Like, I could easily charge way more, but it's the fact that I know my audience so well. Like, for a lot of the people who come into the Boss Gram Academy, very similar to how you came in 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, or whatever it is, it's your first investment. It's their first investment. Like, that dollar amount is a lot to them. It might not be a lot to me, but it's a lot to them. And the fact that, over time, you change the structures of your program too. Very similar to your program was a one-on-one. Now it's a group. And then who knows, eventually, once you kind of understand all of the questions that come through, it's very similar to the journey with Boss Gram Academy. I used to, when you were enrolled in it, I was doing weekly calls with everyone, answering their questions and all of that. Then the second round, it became a group style. Weekly calls became monthly calls. And that would allow me to actually understand what's going on, like, with my people, like what questions are there. And then once I collected enough information, and I think it's kind of the stage you're at right now, is like, once you collect so much information and you do so many calls, you kind of realize that all the questions are almost the same. And that's a good sign that you need to start updating your program so that all those FAQs are integrated into your lessons. And now Boss Gram Academy is at a place where you really don't need calls, because everything that you would have a question about, all of the things, we even have mindset lessons now. is in the program. And that is considered into the price as well, because the more DIY it is, the less it might be, versus the more attention that you get from the actual course instructor, the more one-on-one experiences, the more calls, it's going to be more expensive. And so I really love that we share very similar pricing strategy / philosophy, because one of my biggest pet peeves is like, charge what you're worth. And it's like, well, honey, like you're worth everything. You as a person, you are invaluable. You can't put a price on your worth, but your product, it's a mix of you believing in yourself. Yes, I agree with that. But it's also you understanding your audience really well, where they're at in their, journey. It's understanding what's in the product, what's included, what is the value that person's going to walk away with. There's so many factors that come into pricing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey boss, are you enjoying what you're hearing so far? Well, I'm interrupting my own episode to invite you to my free training over at www.followerstoclients.com. This training has helped thousands of my own students nail down their niche, create content that brings them more leads to their door, and implement an easy-to-deploy social media funnel that helps them close clients like a boss. This training is perfect for anyone who is starting out in business and wants to know the roadmap to making 10K months, regardless if you're a new coach, content creator, or corporate escapee. By the end of this training, you are guaranteed to walk away with strategies that you can implement instantly. The best part is that this training is absolutely free and breaks down my entire methodology to signing paid clients, plus complimentary trainings that I don't share anywhere else on my free channels. Register today at www.followerstoclients.com. Link is in the description box below. I can't wait to see you there. And now let's get back into the episode. Yeah. So I love all of that. I would love to know too, was there a specific shift for you when it came to the pricing where you were like, I'm ready to charge this much? Was it when you actually saw how awesome your program was, or did it take a lot of social proof for you to kind of get that confidence?
I'm probably a little bit of a turtle on this. I'm definitely I'm definitely a bit of a slower to catch up on this. So, but I think the big turning point for me was, so before, if you can imagine, I was working with so many different clients at a different price point. I was like, I can help the student wanting to get into a master's program. I can help the corporate professional who wants to break through the glass ceiling and get her promotion. I can help this person. I can help that person, going through all of that mess and realizing I'm not showing up for my clients. I don't want to be the exhausted coach. I don't want to look burnt out on my videos. People can read your energy like this. And it's just I don't want to be that coach. And it's sort of okay. So I knew part of it was a kick up the ass. I'm going to be a better coach when I'm working with fewer people at a higher price point. So part of it came from I have to do this. And then part of it came from just designing that step-by-step transformation, realizing, the best courses are quick and streamlined. I was putting this into an online course portal to help them. I couldn't stop creating content. I had to I was I know so much, I've worked with so many people now. I've got all the tips and tricks. I've got so many things and mindset shifts, all sorts of things that people can use to get to be successful. I think just designing that program from A to B and realizing, gosh, this is my lifetime's work. I've been in HR, I was like, oh, I've never been a career coach before. It's girl, you've been working in HR for 10 years. You've been working with people and some of the most talented people, high potentials. I was focused on talented millennials at L'Oreal. That was my niche, But
we're already doing it.
It takes time to realize this is my lifetime's work. This is my collection of stories, of experiences, of knowledge, of my readings, of my learnings. It's all here,
And how long did it take you to, work on learn HR, all of those years before you start a business count?
To your my master's degree, exactly. How much have
all the money you spent?
Yeah, exactly. It's insane. Once you start, I think it's just literally realizing everything that you've done to get to this point, the transformation you can create, listening to the people that, when they're giving you that feedback and that social proof, looking at how you're impacting people's lives. It is hard putting a number on that because if you charged your worth, it would be 20 grand, the program. you know? So there's like, but you've got to get to a point where you can charge a reasonable amount to meet your financial goals for sure. And then, as you said, then you've got the layer of where is my person at on their journey?
Yeah, I
What would
think
feel good to them?
there's so many factors that we're talking about right now. Like the fact that factoring in the fact that you have invested in your master's degree, you worked at a huge company at their head office, like the head office. Like I worked in the Canada office. Rosie worked in the France office. Like she was the head honcho. Like anyone who worked at France was like, oh my gosh, it is the French people for this French company. And we're also factoring basically where your people are at in their journey. And you're factoring in the fact that you literally can visualize and see all of your life's work, all of your material just packaged in. When you actually see that in front of you, because I asked that question so that I can also share. I think that my money story really changed when I put everything on paper. And I basically started filming the videos, filming the exact same lessons that I was teaching my clients. So essentially, I started very similar to Rosie almost, like free beta clients, did one-on-one services, which is what we teach in BGA, because that's literally where you're going to learn the most. As like you're going to learn so much from actually talking to someone instead of just talking to them through a PowerPoint presentation and not give calls and not give anything. It's a kind of process to go from beta to DIY courses to everything else, right? And so for me, it wasn't until I packaged everything, filmed the videos, saw the curriculum, did the worksheets, created all those things where I can actually like visually see all the work that goes into creating a program and also goes into sharing all the knowledge that you have basically hoarded or paid for or whatever. Also think about all the courses, and this is specifically for our listeners, like think about all the courses maybe you purchased to learn things, to upgrade your skill and all of that. That also factors in. And the fact that you're creating a program for other people that helps save them time, that helps save the mistakes that you made, that is worth charging for. So for instance, for me, the reason why I like, if someone's like Boss Gram Academy is too expensive, I'm like, okay, well then it's not for you because I'm not lowering my price any lower than it is right now, okay? Because you are literally learning from someone who has a 7-figure business now. I'm still updating the program with all the lessons that I learned, all the mistakes that I made so that you can avoid those mistakes. So for those people who are listening, the mistakes that you made that you're trying to teach people not to do counts as well. Like you probably made tons of mistakes, or you've witnessed a lot of people in your career who've made mistakes during a business, during an interview or during a negotiation for salary. And now you're integrating that into the program so that they don't have to make those mistakes. That could cost them more money, or that could cost them the job, which is even worse.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I love that you said that about, you know, if people say to you, like, BGA is too expensive, then it's not their program. Honestly, BGA is priced so low that I like I've done programs since I invested 5,000 in one. I recently invested like 20,000 in another more recently. Like I just can't believe like BGA is just up there, and I know that you get this all the time, but to the point where I was like struggling sometimes with my pricing because I was like, I couldn't charge more than BGA. like that's how low it is.
I noticed that though. A lot of our students are afraid. They're like, but I don't want to charge more than the Boss Gram Academy because the Boss Gram Academy is like so up there in terms of value. And I'm like, and this is actually a teachable moment though. This is where you really need to understand your business really well. The reason why I can charge that low is because I can afford to, because I have a huge audience, right? Whereas one thing that you said earlier on in this interview that also factored into your pricing was the fact that, hey, I don't have a really big audience right now. And if I'm going to sell an ebook or if I'm going to sell something less than whatever, when I crunch the math and I need to put food on my table, I need to reach my personal goals. And this, we're not making a charity. This is a business for a reason because we want to make money. We want to, have freedom. That's one of your values. That requires money. And you need to understand your business really well and what prices you can afford to charge. For me, a price point like BGA is not going to make sense for someone who's trying to do something, who's literally trying to copy and doesn't have the same, business background or same infrastructure or same audience size or whatever. So for me, I'm factoring all those things in my pricing. If my audience like cut in half or I lost everything, yeah, the price is definitely going up, right? So those are so many things to keep in mind of when it comes to pricing. Oh my God, this is such a good episode.
Yeah, it's a very complex topic, and it's a game that you just test and you play with, and it evolves all the time.
Yes. And one thing I want to reassure our listeners too is the fact that, you know, if you're starting out, yes, it's very scary to start charging and all of that. And very similar to what Rosie and I did, we just started small first and then we just built it up and built it up. And it takes time. But the best part is that as you get more confident, as you kind of see the transformations that you're getting, the first few clients that you get, the moment that they say, oh my gosh, you changed my life, it's going to be very obvious to you that you need to change, like raise your prices. Is it a little bit scary and uncomfortable? Yes. But very similar to what Rosie said earlier, she was at a place where she knew she had to.
Yeah. Yeah. And when are you going from just testing out your stuff to actually getting real results? As you just said, if someone's coming back saying, you've changed my life, that's your moment. It just takes one person at 1,200 to give you evidence that you can charge 1,200. It just takes one person at 2,000 to know that you can charge 2,000. It does build up over time. And every time you put your prices up, you're going to think, have I outdone myself? Am I overcharging? That kind of thing. And then you'll find that if you're creating that value, you're getting that results, you are transforming people's lives, there's always going to be people who are saying, I want to work with you specifically on this.
I love that. And also it's the fact that, a lot of people, they're like, oh, like when will I know I'm ready? Like, I don't know when I'm ready. You're either going to, very similar to Rosie, see the transformation that you're making and being like, okay, yeah, it's my moment. It's my moment to shine and it's my moment to raise my prices. Or you're going to get to a place where like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. I'm so burnt out and booked out. Very similar to kind of the earlier phases where you were at, where you knew that you were severely undercharging because everyone was saying yes. And you had more clients than you could handle. That was a good indication for you that you also needed to raise your prices at that point and make the career glow up, package everything, because you were hitting a ceiling and you were like, I can't breathe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I love all of that. All right. So congratulations again for hitting 6 figures. And, I know your goal is now hitting 7 figures, which I am totally 100% rooting you on for. It's incredible that you were able to do that with less than 10,000 followers. And I'm just very proud of you. And so can you tell us maybe the top 3 game-changing strategies that you did in your business that you feel contributed to the fact that you were able to make the money that you're making now with the audience that you have?
Yes, absolutely. So I just want people to know that I hit my first 6 figures around 3,500 followers on Instagram.
Wow.
I didn't really I had, maybe 1,500 on YouTube or something. Like, this is the size we're talking. And I know that people can hit six figures with 500 followers, with 700 followers. Mine was about 3,500 followers. Just, I took a bit longer to get there. But so people know, it doesn't need to be 10,000, 15,000, just wanted to anchor that. So I guess my number one thing is, look, it's not about the number of people you have. It's about the quality of people that you have in your audience. And to get quality people, you need to niche down hard. This is what we learn in BGA. You can have a hypothesis as a niche at first, work with real people, tweak, refine, get further and further and further down. That's what I did. I was like, career coach for millennials. And then I've really narrowed that down over time. But niche down hard. Listen to them constantly, interact with them constantly. Instagram is a social media platform. Poll them, question box, DM them, voice note them, learn from them, listen to their words, listen to their pain points, and all of that goes into your copy. When you talk in your captions, it goes into your sales page. It goes like, that's when people are like, you know who I am, and like, you're the coach for me. And treat actually, them like gold.
And have you been getting most of your leads from Instagram, or is it mostly YouTube? Like, how do you find that has been the most effective for you for closing clients and all that? Because I know a lot of my listeners, maybe they don't have time to be on all these platforms, or maybe they don't know what to spend their time on. What has been effective for you, like social media wise?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was on Instagram only from September 2019 to March 2020. So that was my Instagram. And so I was getting all of those that huge flurry of clients through Instagram only. I think YouTube for me, it's really great at providing evergreen content that gets people opted into my freebies and on my email list. But honestly, the sales are happening on Instagram for me. It's really happening through, yeah, that relationship, the DMs, the voice notes, and then inviting people onto the sales calls and stuff for the career glow up. I only launch on Instagram. The other stuff is sort of like so I'm on YouTube and LinkedIn as well. I feel like each platform has a purpose, but my relationship and my selling goes down on Instagram for sure.
I love that. Okay, great. So we talked about that one strategy. What are some other strategies that you did to grow to six figures?
Yeah, so that number one, if I could sum it up, it's like treat them like gold, treat your audience like gold, the people you have. Number two is what we were talking about throughout this whole episode, so I won't, spend too much time on it, but it's design something transformational and charge for it, charge accordingly for it, price it right. So yeah, rather than, as a career coach, I could be down in the trenches, editing people's resumes and auditing their LinkedIn profiles for $100 and that kind of stuff, that's going to be a fast road to burnout. And it's actually not the level of work I want and level of impact I want to be creating on the world. I want to actually be contributing. So design something transformational and charge what it's worth. And we talked about that a lot. And then I'd say the biggest strategy, number three, is work on yourself. You are going to hit limits. You have limiting beliefs. You are going to doubt yourself. You need to surround yourself by people, you need to find your mentors online. It doesn't have to be like real mentors. It can be like you looking up to people online. Find your mentors, surround yourself with people who are actually doing similar things so you see what's possible. That's why BGA is really awesome, because you've got the community of literally people posting in there every day. Got my first client, hit my first 10K, or like all of those good things. So you're like, okay, this is possible. This is real. It's not a scam, you have to believe it's possible, and you have to work on yourself every step of the way. BGA was my first investment in myself. I was petrified to make it. And then once I went through it and I realized like it paid itself off like instantly in a matter of weeks once I launched on Instagram, because I had all these people being like, can I work with you? And, like every step of the way, it just paid itself off, obviously, 100 times over. But I would just say like, it really is like when it's the right program for you, it's the best thing you can do, and it's going to happen more and more. And as I said before, like over the past 6 months, I've invested over $30,000 in myself now, and that mindset shift to go from freaking out over BGA to like being like, okay, what's next? How can I live up my identity, my mindset? How can I go further? How can I scale? All of those big questions that where I'm at now, and it's a no-brainer. You've got to do it. You have to do it. Like you are going to be running around in circles for months, if not years and years and years, stuck in your head, trying to tweak your niche statement and in your Instagram bio if you don't invest in a program like this.
Yeah, 100%. And another thing too is there's two things I want to say is, when you start investing in your business, in yourself or whatever else, I'm always thinking I'm going to make that money back anyways. Like that's already the energy that I'm going into. Let's say I'm paying for, I don't know, a $20,000 mastermind or whatever. I'm like, I'm going to make that money back easily at that level of, at that game that we're playing. I'm definitely going to be making my money back and more. So I'm excited for that. Another thing too is even let's say you join a program, because we all have, and it's not what you thought it was, or maybe you're disappointed, or maybe it just was not what you wanted. Well, guess what? That's a learning lesson. The very, very few courses that I've bought that I'm like, oh my God, why did I buy this? I end up learning so much about curriculum design. I learned so much about what type of support is, needed, or what type of support would be appreciated from people. I do market research and understand, why wasn't this a positive experience and what can I get out of it? What can I teach other people about that experience? So even if you invest in something and it quote unquote flops for you, it's always going to be a learning lesson on either how you can create your own programs and make them better, or learning lessons that you can turn into free content pieces, which is very, very good, or other learning lessons that you could have gotten from that program regardless.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so what does the next step look like for you? Because now you've hit that 6-figure mark. And I know for a lot of business owners, it's like, oh, I just want to hit my first 10K. Okay, now I want to hit my first 50K. And then I want to hit my first 6K. And then I want, this, whatever else. And so what's the next step look like for someone who has a 6-figure business and all of that? Like, what's the next step?
Yeah, this is such a good question. And I love it because I want to really drive home the message that it will look different for every person. What I realized I was doing about 6 months ago is I almost created a career ladder for online business. I was like, okay, so I need to do one-to-one coaching, then I need to do a group program, then I need to package that into a course, and then I need to offer really high ticket masterminds with a retreat in Bali. And then, and I was really looking at every other person and I was just like, that's the career ladder. Actually, no, I've designed what I want my life to look like, my business to look like, and it looks a bit something like this. So I'm very much like, there are some people who want to become like the master coaches, the new Tony Robbins, and they love coaching and they want to do that one-to-one and do that private coaching. I'm not that person. I am a pedagogical designer. I love creating transformational courses and I love creating content. I love creating my reels, my YouTube videos, my Instagram posts. I love creating courses. So it's very much like quite similar to BGA and Vanessa's business model. That's what I want. And why? Because I want schedule freedom. I want time freedom. I want to be able to, design my days, not feel, like, oh my gosh, I've got 8 hours worth of calls today. I have to be on if it's an off day. Like that's just how I want my business to look. And so what I am doing at the moment is I am scaling the Career Glow Up into an evergreen model. There's going to be a community aspect, but I'm eventually going to hire support coaches and I'm going to take me out of the process a bit more and more over time because I know my methodology works and they don't need to work with Rosie, they need to work with my step-by-step framework. So that's what I'm really working on for the Career Glow Up. I also have an sort of entry-level course as well called Badass Your Resume, which is about writing an awesome resume and cover letter. So I'll have like my two kind of programs running on Evergreen, and eventually I'll add more and more to the product suite. I've had a lot of demand for starting your side hustle. So like, as I was a YouTuber on the side of my busy corporate role and I started an online business, people are asking me to create some kind of, side hustle academy for people who are still in corporate. So I might create a course on that. I'm just sort of exploring that at the moment. But I think long term, my business is going to be at like a really cool online course sort of portfolio. I just basically want to be the coolest hub on the internet for all things careers, like the most modern, no BS advice. And I want it to feel really fresh. And really up to date and innovative. And yeah, that's sort of where I see my business going personally. So that's where I'm working towards bit by bit. And I'm just really freaking excited.
I'm like smiling ear to ear because I think this is why you and I jive really well and why like after 2 years we still kind of keep in touch in the DMs because we're so similar. Like everything that you're laying out is exactly how I've laid out my business as well. I've also identified myself as someone who is more of a content creator, more of a marketer. I love creating. And by the way, you guys have to check out Rosie on Instagram. Like I'm actually getting so much inspiration from you because your content game is strong. And I love seeing the fact that your time with Not Even French and like, I feel like everything that you did leading up to this point is all like mushing together. Like you were always a content creator. You were always very creative with your old French channel. And now you're bringing that energy into Badass Careers. And it's really exciting for me to see. Another thing that I love that you said is I had the literal exact same thing as you, where I felt like I needed to follow that extension model of like, okay, I need to have one-on-one, and then I need to have my course, and then I need to like have group coaching, and then I need to launch my own mastermind because it looks like everyone else is having these masterminds. And then when I actually got to that place where I needed to create it, I was like, I do not like this at all. The idea that like I'm basically straying away from the big vision that I have. If I'm always on calls, I'm not going to be able to create or do speaking events or do other things that I really want to do. And there's a huge misconception, and I love that you brought it up, that, oh, in order for people to pay me big dollars, there needs to be some sort of call component from me. People need to have access to me, me. But what you have to realize is that no, like package your methodology, your system, very similar to how Rosie and I have my own system for Boss Gram Academy. She has her own system for her niche in Career Glow Up. That is what people are paying for. They're paying for your intellectual property. They're paying for the content that you've put in, that you've laid out, that you've organized. And once you get to a level where you can afford to hire coaches or community managers or whatever else, you train them to teach the material, because the material is all there. You train them with the coaching skills if that's the way that you want to structure your program to support your students mindset wise, or answer any questions that they have, direct them to the right resources. That is exactly how we've laid out our program. And so people still get results. And if anything, I'm happier, I show up better because I'm not getting tons of DMs or tons of questions that my community managers could easily answer as well. It's not really like a question that's specific to what I need to show. Like, it's already in the curriculum. And very similar to you, people get even better results because the curriculum is so laid out for them. There's basically, like, if there's any questions, it's more of like a technical question or maybe a mindset question or something like that. But the strategy, the methods, everything, if it's laid out with the worksheets, with the swipe files, with all the things, it's there. It's literally all there.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's what I'm so excited for. Like, I'm redesigning the glow up right now. It's the best work of my freaking life. Like, not to toot my own horn, but it is going to be incredible. And I'm going to show up for like 2 community calls per month, you know, and then otherwise I've got success coaches who are going to, I've got my a small team now. I've got a full-timer and a part-timer. And I'm just really, really excited for that, because they can get the transformation. It's even more empowering, actually. They can get the transformation without me telling, you know, being there. Like, they've got it. And I'm actually going to be recording some of the calls, and, you know, those can stay in the vault as well. And like, I'm integrating mindset snacks along the way. Like, there's just it just comes all together, like, from working with people, learning from them, from like really being able to expose yourself to all the different problematics people face and everything. And then, as you said, the patterns arise and you can start packaging that up. So that's absolutely it. And I want to be playing in my zone of genius, which is making sure I have the absolute best product on the market, and then marketing that through amazing content and adding so much value through my free content. That's just what I love to do. So that's where I'm going. And and you've been a huge inspiration for me on that, because I imagine, and I know that I'm guilty of this. I was like, Vanessa, can you please like launch your next level program, because I want to pay you for it. But you know,
I might be coming next year.
I'll start saving now. I don't care what it is. I'm investing. But yeah, I just I love that you have stuck it out and really been so focused and stuck to your game plan and seen so much success. And, you know, I've had shiny object syndrome. I was going to at some point chuck it all in and become a side hustle coach, because I was really inspired by Ruby Lee and stuff. And like, you know, and I was like, no, stick it out. Stick to badass careers. You're doing this thing. I told myself, stick to it, commit to it for at least a year. And I'm so glad that I have, because now I'm like just so in love with what I do.
And if you fall out of love with your product, update it. Like, you don't have to change your whole business model in order to feel excited about something again. Like, there was a period where I hated Boss Gram Academy, and I even shaded Boss Gram Academy when you were like, yeah, I joined the first one. I'm like, yeah, I'm really glad you have the latest version of that, because I'm not very proud of the first version now that I look back on it. But like, there was a time where I was like, this is crap. I don't like this anymore. And instead of creating a new offer, instead of pivoting to YouTube coaching, which I was also very tempted to, I was like, you know what, let me just update this, rebrand it, and like add some spice, basically.
Yes.
So I just want to wrap up this episode and kind of highlight that, from what I've noticed speaking with Rosie, is that the main shifts that a lot of 6-figure entrepreneurs embody is discipline, focusing on one thing and doing it really well, scaling that up. That's kind of something that I feel like you've done really well at. And also, another thing is working in your zone of genius and knowing how to leverage your time a little bit better, and not having that limiting belief that like you basically go from a 5-figure coach basically feels like nothing can be done without me. You know, my students can't succeed without me. You know, me. It's more of a personal brand based business, which we all are, but they literally take it literally. But the moment you get to your 6 figures and you want to head to 7 or whatever that range that you're in, you're going to need to start actually packaging things, systemizing it, selling the selling the content, not just selling yourself. You got to sell that method, because that's how you're going to be able to scale. Very similar to how Rosie's, you even said that you're going to be hiring coaches, different people, the method that you created. That is how you can leverage your time. And that way you can do whatever you want, whatever you like best. In my case and in Rosie's case, we are basically innate marketers, very creative people. If I could just film videos all day and do this all day, I would. And so I'm just really happy to see your transformation. To wrap this up, what is one word of last words of wisdom for our listeners?
I think I'm going to go back to where I start with my career coaching clients, which is you are your niche, you are your competitive advantage. No one on this planet has your unique combination of skills, of strengths, of passions, of life stories, of experiences, all of that kind of thing. People want to work with you for a reason. So there is no point comparing to anyone else out there. There's no point pricing like anyone else, designing your business model like anyone else. Make this thing work for you, and come from a place of just doing what you love. Honestly, as cheesy as it is, that's what works, and that's what creates 7-figure businesses.
I love it. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, Rosie. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
You just finished listening to an episode on the Turn Your Followers into Clients podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you leave us a review on iTunes, and don't forget to share this episode with your friends on social media. Just don't forget to tag me at vanessalau.co on Instagram. Now, if you want more of that good stuff, head over to www.vanessalau.co, click on our blog, and access all of the show notes from this podcast. Now, boss, keep doing the damn thing and building a business you don't need an escape from.